fish and chips. I'm sat on the floor playing in my freshly cleaned and tidy bedroom. I'm literally in my own little world because I'm enjoying myself so much. My toys of choice are a green remote control army tank and a silver space robot figure from Battlestar Galactica. I'm using my imagination to create so many fun ideas of what the tank and space robot are doing. This is pure delight. Being in my room surrounded by all my toys and comic books, my room is a happy place right now. Looking across the bright and gleaming floor, I can see my long remote control bus placed neatly against the opposite wall and decide to bring it into the game. The tank will try to blow the bus up, but at its own peril, as the space robot would be the hero and save the passengers on the remote control bus. I closely examined the figure of the hero and wished I could be big, strong and brave, just like him. The ideas were flowing through my mind now. I decided that I was going to make a big save in the game and see myself being cheered on by the gleeful passengers on the bus. At that moment, my bedroom door opened and my ma came in. "Go to the chipper for me, will you?" she demanded. "Oh, Ma, do I have to?" I pleaded. "You can play with your toys when you get back," was her follow-through. I begrudgingly got up and took the money out of her hand. She was talking to me, but I was too busy thinking about the rest of my game upon my return. "I hope you're listening to me, because if you bring me back the wrong thing, I'll kill you," my mother threatened. "A ray and a bag of chips with a can of orange," she confirmed. "Be as quick as you can, because I'm hungry," she added. "Can I have money for a bag of chips too?" I asked. "Haven't eaten all day and I'm starving." "Go on then, get yourself a bag of chips and you can have some of my orange," she agreed. She concluded by saying, "Run all the way there and back because I want me dinner." Put my coat on and ran out the door as quick as I could. For a 7-year-old, I'm a fast runner and a good jumper too. My chain of thought was to get to the chipper and back to my imaginary world with my toys as soon as possible. I wasn't forgetting I was going to get chips and some of my mother's orange also. Chipper was about a 20-minute walk for a grown-up. I went through the playground where the local gangs would hang out and throw horrible insults at me as I passed. I hated this part. They scared me. I continued to sprint till I got to a roundabout at the bypass. Have to time this just right when running across the bypass, which was thronged with speeding traffic. I knew how easy it was to be knocked down and even killed. 2 of my schoolmates had been hit by cars in this very spot in the last year. Took a deep breath, ran across 4 lanes of traffic as fast as I could. Whole time I prayed to myself, "Please, holy God, don't let me get killed by a car." I could actually feel the breeze of each car whizzing by me like a bullet. Echoing sound of car horns beeping at me was deafening. My heart was beating in my chest. Felt like it was going to explode. Finally reached the safety of the grass on the other side and took a deep breath and continued on my journey to get my ma's fish and chips. When eventually I reached the chipper, I saw a big queue in front of me. I waited and moved along patiently until it was my turn. Then it struck me. I couldn't quite remember what fish my mother wanted. I decided to order smoked cod with chips, as I'd seen her eat that before and not forgetting my own chips too. I knew my ma would be so proud of me for remembering and bringing her back her food because she was starving. So I began upon my journey back. "Hey, Simon," a man yelled out. I looked around to see the man who lived in the flat next door to me and my parents. "Do you want to lift home in my car?" This was music to my ears, as I'd been eating my chips much sooner and drinking fizzy orange. Whole journey home in the car, I stared out the window, oblivious to the fact I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. My chips and toys were running wild in my mind. I got out of the neighbour's car and walked up with him. He knocked at the flat door and my mother answered in anticipation. "How are you, Marie?" the man asked. "Brought the little fella back safe and sound," he said while laughing. "Jesus, Eddie, you can keep him. I only want me chips," she laughed back. "Here, bring the fish and chips into the kitchen," she instructed. I left the grown-ups talking at the door and put my mother's food on the table before bringing my own chips into my room. Now I was going to eat my favourite food and play with my favourite toys. I was so happy. Moments later I heard a loud For fuck's sake. It was my mother. She bellowed, "Simon, get down here now." Got up, went towards the kitchen. I met her in the hallway. Smack! She hit me full force across the face with an open hand. "You little bastard. I fucking told you to get me Ray and chips," she roared. Pain was hard and I was immediately terrified and began crying my eyes out. "I'm sorry, Ma," I pleaded. She grabbed me by the hair with two hands and wigged me as hard as she could, roaring, "You bastard, you bastard. You were too fucking busy playing with your toys. Please, Ma, stop. I'm sorry. I swear to God I won't do it again." I cried through tears of terror. "You're fucking right you won't. I hate you," she shouted back at me. She continued to slap, punch and kick me as hard as she possibly could. It resembled the kind of scene you'd see at a hooligan's football match. I wish she'd stop hitting me, as the fear of the next strike was more terrifying than the actual impact of it. "You bleeding cunt, you. You're a fucking pox bottle," she hollered at me, while I lay on my back with my hands and feet up in the air, helplessly trying to protect myself. "I fucking hate smoked cod," she screamed. Then she returned to the kitchen. Within moments, the feeling of relief came over me. She'd stopped hitting me and wouldn't come back. Crawled back down the hallway and sat against the wall outside my bedroom, hoping she might like the smoked cod. I sat sobbing, tears and snot all over my face. I tried to drag myself up when suddenly I could hear my ma coming back. She stormed out of the kitchen and up the hall with a folded curtain wire in her hand. I gasped in horror as I knew what was coming next. I begged her through a short breath, coated with fear, "No, Mammy, please don't hit me with that. Please, Mammy." She drew up her arm over her head in a fury and rained down an assault of whippings onto my back, shoulders, head and arms. The pain was excruciating and seemed to last forever. I screamed, "Help, please, someone help." I knew deep down no one would come. I held on to the hope that the man next door would hear and come running to save me. I needed some kind of hope to grasp onto to get some form of escape from the sheer pain. A whole host of insults were shouted at me. "You useless little bastard. I wish you were never born. You can't get a bleeding thing right. I wanted Ray, not cod." If I was learning anything from this beating, it would be that I was going to listen to me ma the next time. All my pleas to God in heaven were going unanswered. My ma finally finished the whipping after landing one right across my mouth. She busted my bottom lip open and blood came squirting out all the way across the floor and onto the opposite wall. The warmth of the blood in my lips was almost comforting. My mother knew she'd gone too far again this time. She turned, walked back into the kitchen, closed the door behind her. I was still in shock and said to myself, "Thank you, Holy God, for making me ma stop." I eventually crawled back into my room on my hands and knees, still crying uncontrollably. I shut the door. I could hear the sound of the other kids playing outside. I felt both jealous and angry. Why should they get away with not having a mammy like mine? I always called my mother Ma, but when I was terrified or in shock, called her Mammy. I sat slumped against the wall, sorting out my toys and feeling no positive emotions about them. I now saw them as useless lumps of plastic. Hunger was gone, but to occupy myself I decided to eat my chips. As soon as I tried to put the first one in my mouth, I couldn't. Pain on my busted lip was too severe. After a short while had passed, I was still staring blankly out the window, promising myself that if I ever had a child, I'd never beat it. Only give it love and happiness. I was getting sleepy now, and this meant no more reality. As I lay on the floor, surrounded by my toys from earlier, and a bag full of cold chips, I could start to imagine again, as my eyes were getting heavier. My pain-filled face and body were now being left behind as I drifted off to sleep.